With us now, one of the lawmakers who was in that hearing, Democratic Congresswoman Julie Johnson of Texas. Congresswoman, thank you so much for sharing part of your afternoon with us. I do want to get to the hearing, but I wanted to start with DHS funding negotiations, just to get an update on where they stand and what your view is. Leader Jeffries has said that the White House appears to be far apart with some of the demands that Democrats have made, specifically on requiring judicial warrants as opposed to administrative warrants, which typically require a lower bar to issue. It means that ICE agents could enter a home with less evidence or less cause than with a judicial warrant. Is that a deal breaker for you? Is that a demand that needs to be met in order to get DHS funding across the finish line?
It certainly is a deal breaker for me. I mean, that's what the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution says. It protects American citizens from unreasonable search and seizures. We can't have a situation where ICE agents are running around this country, kicking people's door down in the middle of the night with no reason whatsoever. We've seen this time and time again. The news clips, the videos are coming out, and it's absolutely outrageous. And that is a non-starter for me.
Do you believe that Speaker Schumer is handling this adequately? There are some of your colleagues, especially progressives in the House, who have said that they don't have confidence in him, that they believe that he relinquished significant leverage when he agreed to fund other parts of the government outside of DHS. Do you have confidence in him?
Well, I mean, we have to have confidence in him. He's the leader of the Senate, and we need the Senate to do its job. And we need the Senate to hold the line on what's right in this country. I have absolute confidence in Hakeem Jeffries. He's who I hear from. He's who I see. He's whose strategy I get to listen to every day. And what I do know is that, it was unfortunate that I think Schumer did some initial negotiations without Hakeem Jeffries, and I think that's a mistake. Both bodies need to proceed in parallel. They need to proceed together, hand in hand, because it takes both of us to pass something. And we're all Democrats fighting for the same values, which is we protect the people of this country from unreasonable searches and seizures. We protect the people in this country to have their due process rights preserved, that you just can't willy-nilly come after people, and that it is fair to protest, it's fair to free speech, that a threat to law enforcement is not a whistle and a cell phone.
I ask about Minority Leader Schumer in part because in speaking to CNN just a short while ago, he would not rule out a short-term stopgap in DHS funding if negotiations move forward. I'm wondering if you agree with him, what you would need to see to have you support the idea of having temporary funding in order to finish off the negotiation further down the road.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've had this 10 days. We've already had temporary funding. Everybody has known that the DHS funding deadline of January 31st was on the calendar. Everybody has known that this is coming, and they haven't moved the needle. They haven't gotten the job done, and ICE hasn't reined itself in. That was one of the things that was very apparent in the hearing today, is that the leadership of ICE has absolutely no interest in regulating and reforming the rogue actors within this institution. And there's absolutely unreasonable to me to give them one more penny for even one more day until they do.
In exchange for getting these demands that Democrats have laid out, would you be willing to support some aspects of the SAVE Act, in part requiring voter ID for voting and also requiring proof of citizenship, even to register to vote? That's something that a majority of Democrats in recent polling show that they support. Would you back it?
Well, the SAVE Act is a whole nother situation. I come from Texas. We already have voter ID in Texas. The question is always the devil is in the details, right? If you have to produce a passport, for example, in order to register to vote, we have tens of millions of people in this country that don't have access to passport. Are we going to then waive the passport fee of $150 so that it's not an unreasonable poll tax to be able to show proof of citizenship? Another aspect in that SAVE Act is for married women. They say now you have to sign an affidavit. Again, that requires a notary public. Are we going to have notaries at every single poll location? Are we going to require all the married women in this country to go out and then hire a notary to get the affidavit in order to vote? The devil always is in the details on how these things are manifested, but what we know is for the SAVE Act as introduced, I'm about to head to the Rules Committee right now to offer some amendments. It clearly restricts people's access to the polls. Why not have online? Why can't you show proof of citizenship online? Why are you required to go in person to a local office?
Congresswoman, before we go, I mentioned that I would ask you about the hearing, and there was a moment that stood out to me. The acting ICE director called out something you said in a recent interview this month. You referred to ICE actions as Gestapo raids, referencing Nazi Germany. He responded by saying that families of ICE personnel have been made to feel unsafe in their homes, adding that he himself knows this firsthand because his own family was targeted. Did hearing that change your thought process on the way that you're referring to ICE tactics? What is your response to him?
Well, I absolutely do not support people doxing ICE agents and attacking people's families. That's inappropriate, and we should address that legislatively. No one should have to endure that on any level. But having said that, what they're doing is that we've seen example after example of example. The shooting of Alex Pretty is a classic one, and Renee Good, where people are having out of bounds authority. They are terrorizing people, and they are infringing upon people's rights the same way that we've seen in other authoritarian regimes throughout history. And what we see is they're failing to reenact, and they're failing to rein in their bad actors is a huge part of the problem. The fact there's no accountability there, and that is why people are feeling the way that they do.
And Congresswoman Julie Johnson, thank you so much for sharing your perspective. Appreciate your time.